I'm going to call the meeting to order. And Anne, can you roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Bainan?
Here.
Commissioner Garrett Pinguolo?
Present.
Commissioner Grossman?
Here.
Commissioner Cannoli?
Here.
Commissioner Lindsay?
Here.
And Chair Zapata.
Here. Okay, moving on to item 2, I'm going to read aloud the land acknowledgement that was created in cooperation with the Confederated Villages of the Lishan Ohlone. So the City of Albany recognizes that we occupy the land originally protected by the Confederated Villages of Lishan. We acknowledge the genocide that took place on these lands and must make strides to repay the moral debt that is owed to Indigenous people, specifically the Ohlone tribe. We thank them for their contributions, which have transformed our community and will continue to bring forth growth and unity. The City of Albany commits to sustaining ongoing relationships with the tribe and together build a better future for all that now make this their home. And I would also encourage us all to consider contributing to Shumi, or land tax, to the tribe as well. Okay, moving on to approval, item 3, approval of the minutes. Does anyone want to make amendments, or is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. And unless there's any comments, I will ask Anne to do a roll call vote.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch who made the motion.
I did.
That was...
Thank you. Commissioner Grossman. And Commissioner Lindsay seconded. Commissioner Bainan?
Yes.
Commissioner Garrett Pinguolo?
Abstain.
Commissioner Grossman?
Yes.
Commissioner Cannoli?
Yes.
Commissioner Lindsay?
Yes.
Chair Zapata?
Yes.
So it passes.
All right. I actually wanted to remind us, and I'm sharing my screen for this, about the meeting agreements that we created in September. And just to remind us all that we had agreed to keep our comments to no more than 2 minutes, just in the sense of time being of the essence. We had agreed to share time to leave space for those who have not commented to do so, so sharing the mic a bit. We agreed to use the raise hand function and lower it once we've had a turn, so this just helps with clarity. And then lastly, we'd agreed to keep the meeting, the agenda manageable, and we had talked about kind of these 2 main items. So I wanted to just remind us of these agreements in an effort to keep our work flowing forward. Any questions or comments about that?
Yeah, I don't have a raise hand feature on my screen.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner Garrett Pinguolo. We will, I'm going to try to keep track of, because if you do it through the function, then it keeps an order and who's done it first. So I'll try to keep track of that so that people are having a turn in order. Yeah.
You stated two meeting agreements. Comments be around 2 minutes, basically, and raised hand. I was just wondering if we have any meeting agreements about treating.
You dropped out there.
Just wondering if we have any meeting agreements.
Jeremiah, it's not coming through.
Okay, let me try this again. I was wondering if we have made any meeting agreements to where we respect other members and or respect the public.
I heard you say if we had made a meeting agreements that we respect one another, and then that was the last I heard. Oh, to respect one another. Okay. We hadn't made that, but I can add that to the slide if that's okay with everyone. Okay, I see lots of nodding. Okay, all right. So I'll add that to the slide. All right, so moving on, we're going to go to public comment. So this part of the meeting is where people who would like to comment on things that are not on the agenda have 3 minutes per person. And if you could, Anne, open up, or I'm not sure, I don't see any hands, but you do.
Raise your hand if you are going to speak for public comment, please. There are no public comments, so we can move on to the next.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's see. We're gonna go to announcements. So are there any staff announcements?
No, just that Commissioner Dostie had resigned from the commission.
Thank you. All right. So it looks like there are some questions. I saw Commissioner Lindsay and then Commissioner Garrett Pinguello and then Commissioner Cannoli, I think. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Is that me? Okay. I'm wondering if we could, if a motion would be in order to, this is typically done in consent calendar for a council or school board, but a motion would be in order to thank Commissioner Dostie for the work that she did officially.
Hey.
What they? Oh my God. Anyway, yes, I'm laughing just because I did it again. But anyway, so to thank them for the work that they did. So would that be in order, or would we have to put it on that next agenda, the next meeting's agenda?
I don't. I think we probably need to put it on the agenda if it's something we're going to decide on. Correct, Anne?
Yes, if you all are just expressing verbal thanks and appreciation, you could do that during this meeting. But if you want something in writing, yes, it has to go on to the next agenda. And I'm sorry, Commissioner Lindsay, I accidentally hit the wrong button for you.
I was like, okay. Sometimes I need to be shut up, so it's all good. Well, how should we proceed? Shall we do a verbal thing, or shall we wait later and do a written one? What do people think?
Bart, do you have a process question or suggestion?
Yes, I suggest that we do a verbal appreciation, and you might, Chair Zapata, you might send her an email expressing our thanks. That wouldn't be a motion, so it wouldn't be out of order.
Got it. Okay. So I'm opening the floor. Maybe we can start with, well, anyway, Commissioner Garrett Pinguello had a comment, and then Commissioner Cannoli. Jeremiah, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. So I'd like to make a few announcements. I'll try to keep time short, but I got a lot to say.
Hang on a second. We're not.
Let's see.
Sorry, Jeremiah. We're not on to that. We haven't dealt with this. We haven't said our verbal thank yous yet. We were going to do thank yous, and then I was going to send an email to Corey. Does that make sense? So we were going to go around and say
Okay,
something.
just let me know.
Okay.
Yeah, just let me know when I can speak on member announcements, because I have some good for the city, some public announcements that need to be made.
Got it. Okay. So Jim, do you want to start us off, and then we'll just...
Well, Bart, did you have your hand up for, or was that just you forgot to put it down?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That answers that question. Oh, okay. So I did that too. So just that the commission wants to thank ex-Commissioner Dosty for their work on the commission, and let her know that we appreciate her. Hope to see them back soon.
Okay, did I get this wrong? We're not all going around and saying...
We don't all have to.
Okay.
Not necessary.
Okay. Yes, definitely verbal thanks. Yes, to Corey, who even led our group as a chair for a while. And so lots of energy and work that went in. So big thank yous. I'll send an email on our behalf as well. Okay, so let's move on with announcements, and we'll go with Commissioner Garrett Penguillo.
Hi, everybody. So this message is for the public of Albany and for the commissioners as well. So I'm trying to make this easy for everybody. We got the Berkeley Pantry located up on Sacramento and Cedar. I've mentioned this before. Basically, it's open to all of the Albany residents. If you got a California ID with an Albany address, free food for your family. Comes from Sprouts, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, Costco. I just want to make this a lot easier for you. Instead of having to actually go there Monday, Wednesday, Fridays from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock p.m., you could actually call this phone number and have the food delivered to your front door. Area code 510-525-2280. So all you got to do is make this phone call, give them your address, and you got free food delivered to your house. Okay, so there's that wonderful news. Also, a few weeks ago, I was at work at the Port of Oakland, and there was a big car parade for Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and I was actually part of that. I took my lunch break, and I was part of the car parade. I met a council member from the city of Oakland. Her name's Carol, and she really wants to work with the city of Albany collaboratively, she said. So I've been in touch with another council member from Oakland, and I have these signs from the parade. King's Dream Lives. This was just one of the flyers I picked up from the social justice parade. Also, I just went by the library. There's about 4 homeless people around the library right now. Just kind of just hanging out. Someone have something interrupting my someone have some microphone on, kind of interrupting my my presentation I'm trying to give right now. Someone want to turn off their microphone?
I think it's Commissioner Grossman needs to mute himself.
Yeah, whenever you guys do that, I'll get back to what I was talking about. Okay, thanks. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I think that's about it. Just brief and just share some good.
Thank you. Commissioner Cannoli. Uh-oh, you're muted.
Can you hear me now? I would like to know that it is Black History Month. And I am sure that you all are aware, and I would just like to honor my forefathers. And I wanted to also make a suggestion for, and I don't know if this is inappropriate or not, but if each meeting that we can all or each meeting and every month, a different person recognizes the land acknowledgement, and each of us say it instead of just you say it. I think that would be kind of cool. So we all acknowledge it. We can all say it out of our mouths. And I hope you guys had a happy new year. And yeah, I think that was it on my behalf.
Thank you. I'm also going to chime in and say, yes, definitely cause for celebration today, it being the first day of Black History Month, and recognizing that a month is never enough, that we must work year round. And also a recognition that it is Lunar New Year, and an incredibly important day in the communities that celebrate Lunar New Year. I also wanted to make an announcement about an event that's happening tomorrow evening, which is an event that a lot of different social justice, equity focused groups dealing with education in the city of Albany have been working on. And it's a presentation on this idea of universal design learning, which is very rooted in issues of equity in education, inclusion, anti-racism. And so this event is tomorrow evening, and it's being put on by the Albany Disability Squad, the Cornell PTA, the Marin Elementary Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access Committee, and some other community groups. So it's a pretty exciting sort of networking or collaborative event between community groups dealing with working on educational equity in Albany. Okay, so I'm going to move us on past announcements. Actually, I think that I'm going to open it up for any public comment, I believe. No, I don't need to. Okay. All right. Okay. So we're going to go to presentations, and I know there's a staff presentation, so I want to open the floor to Anne.
Okay, let me share my slides. Okay, you guys can see, I'll see the slides, okay? Okay, so let me also do this. All of the members probably have served this commission for more than a year. Actually, last I looked up, you guys all passed the 1-year mark. Congratulations. So hopefully all of you had a chance, if you didn't have a chance to attend the actual live advisory body Brown Act training back in the beginning of 2021, hopefully you had a chance, or I'm sorry, 2020. Hopefully you had a chance to review the video and the handbook, as well as the presentation slide. This presentation is just a quick overview of the advisory body handbook and some reminder of the Brown Act. So the committee purpose, the charge of the Social Economic Justice Commission is to research, analyze, discuss, and evaluate a broad range of data and opinions on social and environmental issues affecting the welfare of the residents of Albany as inhabitants of both a local and a global community, and make recommendations to the City Council on positions and or actions to take to address these issues. Recommendations to the City Council shall state the relevance, pros and cons analysis, importance, and or particular impact that the issue has on the welfare of the residents of Albany. This committee purpose is listed on the commission's webpage, as well as it's listed on your biannual work plan. The advisory body role. The advisory body role is to advise council on matters within the commissioner's scope of responsibility. For example, provide technical analysis or make policy recommendations. The scope of responsibility and discussion topics, which is defined in the 2021-2023 work plan, which was recently approved by council, should only be the items that are discussed. And that's on the work plan, unless the commission submit to council for amendment. It is important that the member of the advisory body be able to set aside personal biases and agendas in an effort to understand how policies will affect all segments of the city and making an objective recommendation to the city council in the best interest of the Albany community as a whole. Members should, this is important, members should only if designated by commission as a whole, make every effort to represent the view of the whole group when they're designated, and when commenting on matters related to the official capacity as a commissioner. Commissioner should not speak on behalf of the commission and should only make comment as an individual unless designated by the commission as a whole. So you might hear other advisory body member who spoke at city council meeting. For example, they would say, I am a member of the Social Economic Justice Commission, but I'm speaking for myself tonight. So what we don't want to do is, unless you're designated by the commission, you don't want to have the appearance that you're speaking for the whole commission. And for this commission, I don't think this has been an issue, the attendance policy and quorum requirement. We are a seven member body. So quorum means 4 or more. That means without a quorum, we will not be able to hold a meeting. And if there's a lack of quorum at the start of the meeting would have to be canceled. If you know you're not able to attend, please let the staff know, let me know, and we can make sure that we have a quorum for the meeting. And just a reminder for the actual language for the Brown Act, the Public Commission, boards and council, and other public agency in the state exists to aid the conduct of the people's business. It is the intent of the law that their action be taken openly and that their deliberation be conducted openly. So we understand that this is the intent of the Brown Act, and I know sometimes it could be a little bit frustrating that we have to comply with the Brown Act, but this is the rule. Some other reminder, meeting must be properly noticed and open to the public. That's why we're holding these public meetings. They're called public meeting, and we allow public to attend and speak when it's time for public comment. And the agenda has to be noticed and posted 72 hours in advance. Members shall not discuss or make decision on SEJC related matters outside of a public meeting. And members shall not discuss, deliberate, or decide on matters that are not listed on the agenda. So you can mention it for the future agenda, during the future agenda item part, and we can schedule it for a future meeting. And like I said earlier, a quorum is, for this body, is 4 or more, may not communicate with each other directly or indirectly through whatever medium, including email, text, social media, or through staff. I mean, to develop a collective concurrence. All meetings must be conducted in compliance with the Brown Act. I think I said this a couple times already, but do not discuss, deliberate, or decide on matters before hearing public comment or to talk about an item that's not on the agenda. For each agenda item, the proper discussion format would be presentation or report if there are any. And then the chair would open up for member questions. Then open up for public comment, then return back to the advisory body for further discussion or possible decision or motion. I believe at your March meeting last year, the established start time is 7 o'clock. And well, that's the start time for most of the advisory bodies. And the established end time is 9:30. If necessary for a meeting to extend past 9:30, a motion is necessary, which you guys all have been extending when it's necessary. Subcommittees. Some people refer to it as ad hoc committees or subcommittees. They need to be composed, they can only be composed of members less than a quorum. So 3 or less, which I believe all your subcommittees now are 3 or less people. And they are only for a limited purpose and have a limited timeline. This last one may be a little bit confusing, not subject to the Brown Act, in the way that it's not subject to the Brown Act when you're having the meeting, meaning it doesn't have to be open public meetings. It doesn't have to have 72 hours, but the part about the Brown Act that you cannot talk to more than a quorum of the members or make decisions outside of the meeting, that still applies. So lastly, just some tips for advisory body effectiveness. Of course, you guys also have your meeting agenda agreements or meeting agreement, sorry. 1, do your homework and be thorough in making recommendation. Treat everyone, public and other members of advisory body with respect. Contact a quorum of the advisory body member about the same issue is prohibited, like I said, directly or indirectly, meaning, you don't want to talk to 2 of the member about one thing, and then turn around and talk to 2 other members. You're thinking that you're only talking to 3 people total at a time, but when in reality you're actually talking to 5 people already. So that's not okay. Lastly, have a good working relationship with other members and staff to be more effective as an advisory body, as a team. So that's all for my presentation. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
So we'll take questions and then we will go to public comment. So I see, I first saw Commissioner Lindsay, then Commissioner Garrett Pinguello, and then Commissioner Grossman.
Yes, let me lower my hand. So one of the bullet points, and kind of caught my eye, it was there twice. It says, don't talk with any other commissioners about something unless it's on, outside of a meeting. But you can do that. I mean, as long as you don't. Yeah,
don't talk to more than a quorum of
right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Probably just need to add a few more words in there.
Okay. So just so people understand that, you can talk to people, you just got to be careful. I was talking to a commissioner today, actually, and before we actually started talking, we said, wait, for each issue, who have you already talked to about this? Oh, you've already talked to 2 other people? We can't talk about it, right? That would violate the Brown Act. So that's kind of what you got to do before you talk with somebody, is check in with who you've been talking to and make sure you don't violate the Brown Act. So that's great that one was done. And then on the tips, I just want to throw in one of my favorite tips, which is stay in touch with whoever appointed you. In terms of effectiveness, it's huge because that person is probably a council member, might be a school board in some cases, but still you should, just, if it's nothing but an email saying this is what we did, that's great. But stay in touch with whoever appointed you about what's happening with the SCJC. So I'm done.
Thank you. Jeremiah?
Yeah, so I was just wondering, Ann, you know, if you put on there says not subject to the Brown Act, but in fact we are subject, or certain committees are subject to the Brown Act. It's kind of misleading when you just put in words on a presentation on a slide saying not subject to Brown Act in plain English, but then, oh, well, it's kind of subject to Brown Act. So it's just misleading when you put not subject to Brown Act, but then say, oh, well, certain things actually are subject to Brown Act. It's just kind of hard to understand.
In terms of having the meeting
also, I was wondering, I think it was regarding like subcommittees or designated as a whole bodies or something. It was like something not subject to Brown Act. It was, you just spoke about it. We just went over this. It was talking about some subcommittee or some ad hoc committee, and the bottom thing on your slide said not subject to Brown Act, but then you continued to say that, oh, well, certain things are subject to Brown Act.
So what I said about not subject to the Brown Act is the meeting procedure. So not the, you know, you don't have to have a public meeting, and you don't have to post the notice 72 or the agenda 72 hours.
Okay, I don't know.
It's not a Brown Act meeting.
Right. Well, you put up a slide, and on the bottom of your slide, it was like number 4. It said not subject to Brown Act.
That's why I added the explanation. It's the meeting procedure.
Verbally explanation. It's hard when you put something in writing and then you want to change it verbally.
I'm not changing it.
Yeah, can you guys, can I just make a suggestion? I think what, if I may, that he's suggesting an edit to that slide, just for clarification, not subject to Brown Act in terms of meeting procedures. You know, just so if somebody sees the slide without having your context in there, they don't get confused. I think that would probably resolve the issue, because everybody, is that cool, Jeremy, that maybe that slide gets just clarified?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly, because it could be misleading when you say, you know, the slide says not subject to Brown Act, when actually certain parts of it, I guess, are subject to Brown Act. That's all. Yeah, thanks for the edit. That'd be great. And then when we're talking about designated as a whole, like a body, is that basically referring to a subcommittee? 'Cause I'm just wondering, you mentioned that, you know, if we're not supposed to speak at a public meeting, you know, representing the SCJC, unless we've been designated by the SCJ as a whole, as a body. Is that basically just a subcommittee? Okay, so how do you get designated by the whole agency to speak on something at a, other thing?
For example, one of the when the chair was designated by the commission as a whole to present your work plan to city council, right? The commission designated the chair as the spokesperson to present your work plan at the city council. That is commission designated speaker. Then the chair can say, this is from the Social Economic Justice Commission. But if you're going to council and speaking on your personal opinion, and that has not been discussed at the commission, and the commission has not designated you to express that as the opinion of the whole commission, then you cannot say this is the SEJC opinion. You can say, I am a member of the SEJC, but I'm speaking on behalf of myself.
That makes sense. I've seen that done before in meetings by others. Okay. Well, the last question is, okay, let's say, example, I'm on a housing subcommittee, and let's say there's a planning and zoning meeting, or all these other meetings where housing's involved. Is that something where I've been designated as a committee because I'm on a subcommittee for housing? So may I say, hi, my name is Jeremiah. I'm SEJC. I'm on a housing subcommittee. Is that designated?
But you're speaking for yourself.
Okay.
Unless whatever you want to comment on has been through this commission.
Has been pre-approved, and we have already talked about it. If we have not talked about it in our public meeting here, then I speak for myself. Okay. Thank you for the clarification. And last thing, what about Facebook? What about making announcements on Facebook? You know, you just got to say that you're speaking for yourself, kind of thing. Okay. All right. Thanks. That's great. I mean, I learned a lot just now, so I think it was worth our time. Thank you.
Okay, Bart, go ahead.
Yeah. And I was a little curious as to what prompted this briefing at this point, because certainly this would have made sense at the beginning. But I'm wondering, you know, most of this stuff we've been through, and we've been through the Brown Act training. So I'm wondering what motivated you to make this presentation. Did something happen that you were concerned about, or, you know, it just feels a little odd.
Well, I'll be honest with you. What triggered this? Actually, we were watching the Climate Action Committee. I found out from the staff liaison that she does this every year, annually. I just thought this is such a great idea to remind, especially you know, I think usually we do the advisory body and Brown Act training every 2 years. I understand that I believe our last one was done in 2020. Because of the pandemic, it wasn't done in 2021 when you guys first got appointed. So I just thought, you know, just telling members to watch the video and read on it, you know, sometimes there's not a chance for members to ask questions. And doing a brief overview perhaps could help remind some of the points that might be missed or unclear, or a chance for members to ask questions.
Thank you. That's very helpful. And I think it was a helpful presentation.
Thank you. I apologize for, you know, putting the slides together really quickly, so some of the details are not in there, but, you know, verbally I said it.
Yeah, you did. That was fun.
Thank you. And Jim, do you have a comment? And then I was going to make one.
Yeah, I thought it's great. It's relatively brief, and the Brown Act is so freaking important. You know, that I think that was time wisely spent. And if we were the guinea pig for your slide deck, you can now do the version 2 of it. You know, nobody gets the slide deck right the first time. It just doesn't happen. So it's all good. So thank you for doing that. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, yes, to share an appreciation as well. And I think I was going to say that originally, I think the slide said the meeting ended at 9, and then it said 9:30. So that was really helpful, just to know that we're actually are meeting until the right amount of time. And then the other thing that was clarified, and this actually came up last meeting, in terms of public comment, and I just wanted to share out, and that you had clarified that it's, you know, this, what we're doing is the presentation if folks have questions and then move on to public comment. So I think that also helped me have clarity as the chair on the process. So thank you for that.
Yeah, the reminder is sometimes, the staff or the chair may, I guess, interrupt some of the member if the discussion starting to get too detailed or too deep into the discussion. We want to stop first and make sure that the public comments are heard before coming back for further discussion.
Yes, thank you. I see Sierra's hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a really quick comment, and I don't know if you could add this in the verbiage. So pronouns, instead of saying people of colors, just say black and brown. What do you think you could add that as well to the handbook, or?
Yes, the handbook would have to go. We would have to go through along with my nomination packet and all that stuff. It will be updated.
Okay, and how frequently is it updated?
Every 2 years.
Okay, so when is the next updated? Is it in
later this year?
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so Will, just want to make sure if you have any questions.
I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you so much for that presentation. It was super helpful.
Okay, let's open it to the public. Please raise your hand if you have, if you would like to speak. All right, I don't see any hands, so we are going to continue with the meeting here. So we're going to move to, and what we had talked about were there were these two sort of larger items on the agenda. And actually, if you look at the agenda, there are three. We're going to have a presentation and discussion about this request for qualifications for the Albany Equity Survey. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to hope perhaps have some subcommittee reports. And then we want to make sure to get into the election of officers. It's just a yearly agenda item. So we're going to start off with 6.1, and I want to hand it over to the city.
Yes, good evening, SCJC members. I'm Isabelle Leduc, and I'm the Assistant City Manager and Recreation and Community Services Director. I'm here this evening to go over the staff report and direction from the City Council. So on January 18th, the City Council took action to direct staff to prepare a request for qualifications, or RFQ, specific to a racial equity survey or potentially a more extensive racial equity engagement program in coordination with subcommittee of the council, comprised of Councilmember Gary and Mayor Jordan. As part of the discussion, the council expressed interest in obtaining additional insight from the SCJC to help inform the development of the RFQ. A RFQ is typically issued to obtain qualifications from prospective service providers so that these qualifications can be carefully reviewed. This can help serve as a preliminary step to determine the most suitable organizations to engage with further, or to invite to submit project proposals or scope of work. A draft RFQ has been developed as directed by the City Council and has been provided to the SCJC as attachment 1 to the staff report for review and comment. As for next steps, input provided to SCJC this evening will be forwarded by staff to the City Council Subcommittee. The City Council Subcommittee will finalize the RFQ with staff, and it will be forwarded to the Council for review and approval. Once approved, the RFQ will be posted on the city website and distributed to any organizations that have been identified as leaders in this field of work. Responses to RFQ received will be reviewed in coordination with the City Council Subcommittee. And the ultimate goal outcome will result in contracting with the selected organization to conduct the DEI community survey and potentially additional engagement work. So that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions or gather comments from the commission.
So just to be clear, you're asking for questions or comments about this process, not necessarily, we haven't moved on to the RFQ yet. Or are we discussing that?
Yeah, it can be both.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so there was an attachment, and hopefully the public and all the commissioners have found that, which is a draft RFQ with some X's for dates and the like. So I'm going to just take hands as I see them. So Commissioner Grossman.
Yes, I think this is so much better approach than the earlier attempt to move right to combining the racial equity with a community survey. I like the RFQ. I would just make one suggestion, which is that I think if we're essentially putting out for bid a community survey, I think attaching potential other work to it is confusing, and we may not, a firm that can do the kind of thoroughgoing racial equity study that we need is not necessarily the same firm that you might turn to advise you on implementing things. They're different skill sets, and I think the last place we got in trouble was by taking the racial equity survey and attaching a consumer satisfaction survey to it. I think we should not attach things to things. This is about a racial equity survey, and that should be the boundary. I'm also concerned about where this will go and how it will be distributed, because the last request for proposals that went out was somewhere on the website, but I couldn't find it. And the city manager made the comment that these things are placed on the website and they're sent to firms that we're familiar with. I don't think we're familiar with any firms that have this skill set. I think we need to really pursue more broadly than just sending it to familiar groups. We need to think about where are people who have this skill set likely to be hooked up? What organizations do they belong to? What periodicals do they read? And that's where we need to put out these things if we're going to get firms with the appropriate qualifications, and not just firms we've worked with before, but firms that really have this skill set. So generally, though, I like what you've done with the request. I think it makes good sense, and it hits the right notes, at least for me. Maybe there are some others, but I think it looks pretty good. Thank you.
So before we move on, I'm just a little concerned that we're going to get too far into this conversation without public comment. So I want to open it up to public comment and then continue on, because I think it's a pretty substantive conversation we're going to get into. So if we can open the floor, any attendees, if you wish, please raise your hand and you'll have 3 minutes to address the commission. Okay. And just so you all are aware, and I'm aware as well, that that's one opportunity per item for public comment. So we're going to move on. So I raised my hand. I wanted to have a couple comments. First of all, I want to say how much I appreciated the data that was in this RFQ. The fact that we actually have numbers, they're very clear and very detailed, I think is actually really important for the kind of work that we have ahead of us. The other thing that I wanted to say, the concerns that I have are really around clarity of purpose. I think that it is really not clear why the survey is being conducted, and that needs to be articulated. If this is, the need for identifying root causes of problems in the city of Albany, if the purpose is to identify equity challenges, that should be really clear, and it isn't in the RFQ. The other thing is it's not very clear on the way. I think it needs to mention a variety of ways that survey data will be collected. So it needs to not just be, passing out the card, but it needs to include online, paper, telephone, that sort of thing. And it also, in my opinion, needs to include people that don't even, perhaps don't even live in the city of Albany, but pass through Albany, visit businesses in Albany, are consumers in Albany, and the like. So I think that's really critical, and I think those are my comments. And Commissioner Bainan?
Yeah, I would just like to reiterate what you said on the purpose. It seemed kind of unclear within the proposal. Honestly, it seemed like there were only like 2 or 3 sentences about it. But of course, the data I really liked. It seemed really helpful. And then also, it might be good to add some sort of timeline component within this proposal. It seemed very broad on like the scope, and not only the scope and what it does, but like the scope and the timing, I guess.
I see Jim and then Jeremiah.
I'll yield the floor to Jeremiah and go after him.
All right, yeah, so I've been around for a while, and Albany is notorious for surveys. A few topics I want to bring up that are important to me is the cost of these surveys, the money. I'm not sure why we hire different companies, consultants, to keep doing surveys when I've seen surveys done on the Albany City website. So the city of Albany, we have our own survey format. We have our own computer program to ask 20 questions, and we've actually done surveys on surveys. The city has done surveys on how to better their surveys. So I don't know why we keep outsourcing all this money for a survey, and is the outcome of the survey, the data, worth the cost of the survey? What positive change is it going to make? And who are these people that do these surveys? Because they're just kind of like businesses. There was a survey done on another commission. I called the number to talk to the company. They didn't even want to talk to me. So it's like there's a lot of hush-hush going on. And I think who's capable of doing the surveys are, let's say we're doing a racial justice survey. We might want to have somebody that's Black, someone that's brown, someone that represents, every single culture. There was a survey being done recently in the city, and the company is it's a racial justice survey or something, but it's like two white people. And I'm not like bagging on any money. I'm not trying to make claims. It's just my personal opinion. If we're wanting to do surveys, we should get the people that we're trying to survey to do the survey. That's all I'm trying to say. I think they would have their best interest involved in the survey to have a meaningful survey and not just data collected.
And thank you, Jeremiah. Just as a point, that did come up. In fact, that was, voted down at the city council meeting, and actually this process was put in place instead of hiring that group. So I think, what we're doing tonight is really tied to what you're identifying as problematic. And so hopefully the comments we make tonight make it to council. So, all right, Jim, and then Sierra.
Yeah, first of all, I liked it quite a bit, and agree that this is the right way to go. Certainly, we cannot send it to known companies. This is a different thing for staff. It's not the normal process, and I'm guessing that staff has not been trained on how to do, city DEI surveys when they, so that, it's a learning process for them. And I think that's why we're providing help, and there's a council subcommittee, and, they're going to do their honest best, but the more we can help them, the better. To the question of why do a survey, the vision is that the community will see what the real situation is when we have hard data, instead of saying, oh, it's just anecdotes, or oh, it's just whining, or oh, it's just playing the race card. When there's a scientific survey with hard data, I think everybody in this commission knows what, has a decent feeling anyway for, what kind of results we're going to get. But I don't think that the typical person in Albany does. And I love my city, but I just don't think they do. I don't think white folk understand what Black and brown folk go through it, So this is kind of like a little bit of a wake-up call. And then the idea is that then, as KZ said, as Chair Zapata said, is that we can look at how we can move the needle, and then repeat the survey every year, every 2 years, whatever the right period is. I don't really know. I'm not, there's a whole science behind that kind of stuff, but so that we can see, are we moving the needle, right? So that's the purpose of it. Is it worth the money? I sure think it is. But you can argue about that, but yeah, I definitely think it's worth the money if it helps us move the needle. I do want to say that I don't think a racial equity survey is going to solve racism. That would be an absurd statement. But I do think it's maybe, a piece of the puzzle, something that can help us hold ourselves accountable. So I think it's really important for us to hold ourselves accountable as a community. And I already said, the one thing it doesn't say in here anywhere is that we expect, or it may be repeated regularly, at some periodic time. I think pretty important, because if you did a one-off survey and you never repeated it, not a whole lot of value there, frankly, because we can't then, we'll never know, did we actually change anything? So what's the point of that? Okay, other stuff, I just real quick, because other people have said it, but I just want to say I agree, so that it's not, people don't think it's just that one person who believes that. The way the data is collected may not be standard in this, like for a typical community survey. This is really a different beast. And doing everything the traditional way may not get the information we need. So we need to be open to a company that does things a different way, as long as they get the job done. I strongly agree about the part about visitors, about finding a way to include visitors and workers, people who don't live in Albany, but who work or visit Albany or drive through Albany. That's a harder one, but try to find a way anyway, because the thing about inclusivity is, if the word is around that if you're Black or brown, and you go into a restaurant in Albany and you don't get treated very well, you're not a resident, but are you going to want to move to Albany? Probably not, because you don't feel included, you don't feel welcome. And so it really matters how people are treated. So I think it's, I know it's more expensive, but it's a pretty darn important piece of it. Under selection process, it says consultants will be evaluated based on a 100-point scale. And the first bullet point, they have a whole bunch of bullet points. I'm not going to read them. But the first bullet point, consultants' experience in the field of DEI analysis, training, and implementation, may have been what Bart was talking about, where he said, don't mix up gathering data and then implementing solutions. I agree with him. And anyway, of everybody in this room, he knows more about surveys than anybody, because that's work that he's done. And I just really agree with him on that. But also, I think their experience should be worth more than 10%. Like, I think it should be something more like 30% of it. Like, that's what we want. We want an experienced company who can show us their work. That should be much, much bigger. And I think maybe the training and implementation is not, I mean, if they've got that also like in a different department or something, I suppose that might be a plus, but I don't think that would be a key element of, are you qualified to do the survey? And I think that might be it. Let me just check if I had any other notes here. I mean, I had in here that if it was a Black-owned company, that would be pretty damn sweet. And I know people say, oh, you can't do that, you can't do that. Well, I'm not so sure you can't do that. And I just want to push back a little bit. And the example I use is, Wonder Woman, where they said, we're going to do an all-female cast. That was legal, and it worked, and it was a great movie. What was the equivalent one with an all-black cast? It was fabulous. I loved it. Superhero movie. Whatever it was an all-black, well, not cast, because you needed some white folk in the movie, but Black Panther, that was it. But it was an all-black staff. Was that illegal? It was not illegal. And they were totally open to that since day one. I don't think it's illegal in these kinds of circumstances, and I think we really should push back. I could be wrong. I'm not a labor law attorney or contract attorney or something like that, but I think we're a little quick to dismiss that as an option, and that it's at least worth a very, very serious look. To have a Black or Brown-owned company and staffed company, not just owned and being a shadow, would be very appropriate in these circumstances. So that's all I got.
All right, Sierra.
Member Lindsay took the words right out of my mouth. Here's the thing. I look at the city council. I'll start with there. There's only one Black female there. There's no diversity whatsoever. And she's not even there anymore. And I think it's very, very, very disappointing that there's all white female and all white male. And that should not be happening, one. Two, we need this racial equity survey, and we do need someone that's Black or brown. It should not be anyone that's white whatsoever, because it does not make any sense. Just like Lindsay said, white people do not understand what we go through on a daily basis. So I really feel strongly that it should be a Black or brown owned business. I think that it should be someone who works on this that is Black and brown. And what are white people going to do with this survey? They don't know what they don't know. And so I really hope that the council considers it and passes this, because it's so important. And but yeah, Garrett Pinguello and Commissioner Lindsay hit it right on the nail. They took my words right out of my mouth. So yeah, that's really pretty much all I had to say.
Okay. I just wanted to add, yes, definitely ditto. And I think that council really gets how important perceptions are, and how this has to feel like it's a trusted process. I think that's why actually, if you listen to the city council meeting, they talked about that the public really didn't have a sense of the other company being a trusted sort of diversity focused company. And so, so here we are, right? And so I think that I want to think that that they're aware of this question of trust and getting a company that understands anti-Blackness, understands, you know, is Black owned, is brown owned, so that we can get information from the public here in Albany. So that's one of the things I wanted to say. The other thing that I wanted to say was that in the RFQ, it really spells out it talks about in the background about the racial equity impact plan, and that it's a 10-year plan. And I guess just for all of us to remember that this survey is nestled inside a larger plan that the council has accepted. You know, they accepted it from Anderson and Associates. So hopefully this is absolutely not the end of this work, and that we understand that these questions, in my opinion, they have to be tied to action, that they have to be, that there must be a continuing conversation of what we do with the data, which is, I think, I hope, Isabel, you're able to communicate that, that really that the action is so critical. So I saw Commissioner Garrett Pinguelo's hand.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this, and I reviewed the information. I couldn't find the cost of this survey. I couldn't find the actual dollar amount, how much this company wants from the city of Albany. And what have we budgeted for this survey? How much money have we set aside for the survey? I'd like some numbers on how much money is going into this. And I'm wondering why we keep trying to hire different companies. We spend so much time trying to find a company to do a survey. You know, if it was me and I was making decisions, I'd say, hey, let's go to Albany High School and get the Black Student Union, Asian Student Union, Latino Student Union. Let's go ask them and have them put together a survey. I mean, at least 25% of our community are students and parents involved in the schools. You know, so I don't see why we couldn't come up with 20 questions in this meeting for a survey. You know, and then we submit 20 survey questions to the city council, and then they use the city staff to put up a survey on Facebook or a city website survey. And we could all do this in-house. It's not really that difficult, you know, to come up with 20 questions on a survey, you know, for our community. So I think we're kind of getting the runaround, or we're kind of getting scammed by businesses that have government contracts from city to city. They go from all these cities, taking advantage of these times right now, wanting to get $100,000 per city, and they just go around and ask the same 20 questions in all the cities. You know, I think we'd be much better off if we just took care of it ourselves. You know, like I said, ask the high school clubs, you know, and get some real data. Get our people's input. Ask the student unions. Ask the people, you know, we shouldn't have to be paying companies to do surveys. You know, I could come up with a survey, you know. I just don't know why. I'd like to know how much money we're spending on this.
Is there, Isabel, do you have an answer? No, yeah. Okay.
No, because this is a request for qualification, so there's no budget attached to, acquiring qualifications from firms. So there's no budget associated with that.
Okay, Sierra?
My opinion is, I don't think there should be a budget, to be completely honest. I mean, geez, we've been going through so much in Albany. There's little to no Black nor Hispanic people. So I truly believe that there should not be any budget. I also believe that we do need an expert, because for me, for example, I don't know, great questions to put on a survey. I mean, obviously, yeah, I can research it, but I haven't been doing it for 10 or 20 years. So I think that there should not be a budget. I think that it should, a survey, however much it costs, that's however much it costs. I know that, in this city, we put so many money on frivolous things. So why can't we put as much money for this racial equity survey?
Yeah, and I also wanted to echo that I actually think it's really critical that we do put money in to, again, a trusted firm. I would be really hesitant to have just kind of a volunteer effort. I think that actually it requires expertise. It requires people with a proven track record that understand how to get the data, and that, and this is, I'm literally reading from Nicole Anderson's the equity plan, which is just this multiple ways for community members to participate, and lots of parts of our community that, again, may not even live here, may be passing through, I think is really, really important. And so I think it requires a level of expertise that is going to cost the city. And I actually think this is where we need to start really making stuff happen, rather than sort of a volunteer effort here or volunteer effort there. That in an ideal world, I actually think, and this is something that the subcommittee has discussed on racial equity, is that we ideally have a paid position within the city of Albany that leads equity work that is so important, that isn't just a volunteer. It's actually a well-paid functioning part of our city. But we're not there yet. We just have a survey so far. Jim?
I'll lower my hand. Okay. The city council wants it to be scientific, because when you do surveys where, like I taught high school statistics, and the kids went around and asked their friends and stuff to, do their thing and did a statistical analysis and like that. And it's not useless, but it's not scientific, because it's not random sampling. You get all kinds of biases and the data. So that data can then be attacked, and validly, because it's not done in a scientific way. And doing it right, unfortunately, requires a certain amount of expertise and requires a certain amount of money. I think that the last one that they were looking at, the community survey that was going to be the both one, they were trying to do the council, their first try was to do both at the same time, and then they figured out they couldn't do that. Isabel or Ann, wasn't it something like 57,000 or something for doing both of them? I can't remember exactly what it was.
For doing both of what?
The bid that they had from that other company, the one they ended up rejecting. Wasn't it for something like 50, 60, 55,000, something in that vicinity?
Oh, I'd have to go back.
And well, I think, Jeremiah, it was something in that vicinity. So just, I don't know what this other one will cost, but just letting you know, that's all the best number I got. And anyway, that's why it needs to be pros doing it, because otherwise the data that you get will not be accepted as being valid and meaningful. And for good reason. So anyway, there you go. Oh, I'm sorry. There was one other thing I forgot, which is I did some research today, and I found some leads for companies. I'm going to read these really quickly, but I sent an email to Ann with this. And Ann, could you send it out to the rest of the commission? I don't know if it gets in the minutes or whatever. But there's a company called, so Ann, you don't have to take notes on this because Ann has it already. There's a company called Polco. The city used the Community Equity and Inclusion Survey to better understand their baseline. They plan to periodically administer the survey to monitor the impact of their efforts. That's perfect. That's exactly what we need to do. I mean, I don't know much about that company. The city of Seattle has a racial equity community survey. And so, you know, what often happens when staff is assigned a job that they've never done before, what staff will very often do is call staff up in other cities that have done it and said, what do you got? Help us out. And staff helps each other out like that across cities all the time. So, you know, staff could contact people in Seattle and pick their brains and get their materials and methodologies and stuff. Maybe the same company could do it if they're happy. I don't know. I thought we could ask Anderson and Associates. They work in this field. They recommended the survey. Bless them for that recommendation. They might actually have leads for us, right? I thought maybe ask the NAACP. What the heck, right? Who knows? Or Black Lives Matter or something. When I just Googled community surveys on equity, I got the best hit, the most useful sort of responses. And the other one that I Googled that got some interesting stuff was community satisfaction with police. So there's quite a few of those that went out, as you can imagine, over the last couple of years. And a company that does that kind of survey maybe would be a good fit for the kind of survey we want. But I don't know, but at least it's a lead. So that material Anne has and hopefully can get sent to the rest of the SEJC and maybe part of the minutes or something, I don't know what. So.
Yes, and thank you, Commissioner Lindsay. I just wanted also to say that staff has also started to do research through the city clerk's office. We've inquired on service providers, and we're acquiring a growing list of professionals that other jurisdictions have used for this type of work.
So I see Sierra's hand up. That's all the only hand I see up. Oh, Jeremiah, go ahead, and then Sierra.
I just want to say one thing. I'm starting to gather my own data on these surveys, and I don't know. City Albany is going to be doing surveys forever, year after year after year. Different committees, City Council wants a survey, Climate Action wants a survey, we want a survey. Everybody wants to do a survey. So we keep outsourcing all these surveys, and we spend so much time trying to find a company to do surveys. It's taken up so many agenda items on so many meetings about surveys. It's kind of bothersome how much time we spend talking about surveys. I'm wondering if it'd be a great idea to hire somebody permanent within the city staff, to be in charge of all of the surveys in Albany. You know, maybe that person that we hire, number one starters, could be qualified, you know, in racial justice. You know, and that would create a job within the city, and it would solve all the problems of trying to keep finding somebody to best fit the situation. Because I know 3 months from now, another committee is going to want to do a survey. And then they're going to spend hours in a meeting going, oh, who do we hire to do a survey? Let's do a survey on who to hire for a survey. If we're spinning our wheels, we're going in circles. So I think the real solution is to hire a full-time staff member in the city of Albany, create a job for our local economy, put it on the city's website, you know, we're hiring someone to be in charge of surveys, and have that person have, you know, recommendations and, you know, have a college degree and surveys, mass communication, something.
All right, Sierra, and then Bart.
Yeah, Polco's Lindsay, Polco, correct? Yeah, okay. I don't think that we should go there because they're all white. They're all white men. Sorry, I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, so let's just exit that out. That's all I wanted to say. No to that one.
Thank you. Bart.
But thank you, and Bart, we can't hear you. But thank you for researching this, Lindsay.
I did provide the mayor with the name of a couple of firms that are black-led, and I think would be appropriate. One of them is in Berkeley, so we don't have to go to Seattle. I did want to say that what the council asked us to do was to look at the RFQ and make suggestions about that. I don't think our job is now to discuss the efficacy of surveys. So could we please stay on topic? Thank you.
All right, so it seems like we've heard, I feel like a pretty clear feedback. And are there any other comments? Okay, I think I'm going to close this item and we can move on. Thank you so much for coming, Isabel, and gathering the information that will go to council.
Yes, thank you very much for your feedback. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so
much. Good night.
Good night.
Commissioner Lindsay, I just wanted to let you know and let all the commissioner know I'll upload this to the agenda as the attachment later on.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So as a reminder, we have these subcommittees set up for the commission, for the SEJC. And there are 5 of them. And ideally, we're doing some legwork and research and brainstorming, and then bringing it back here to one another as well as the public to vet ideas and take steps forward. So of the 5, I'm just going to go over so we have time for subcommittee reports tonight. And I'm going to start off with the Racial Equity Subcommittee. And let's see here. And I think, Jim, you're the first, you're leading the committee, so I'm going to let you report out on the subcommittee.
Okay. We met several times and we started to work on, we agreed that the equity officer is like desperately needed and critical in Albany. But we just have a bunch of research to do before we can, format something, and get council what it needs. So while we were working on that, the survey thing came up and we sort of dropped everything and went back to the survey thing. So I imagine that when we get back together after this meeting that we'll be back to working on the, probably we'll be back to working on the equity officer. But there's 3 of us, so we'll decide that together when the time comes. But that's sort of what I expect to happen anyway. So it's not a long report because we were working on, we just spent a whole bunch of time on 6-1, which is sort of what we were, what we were working on.
Thank you. I guess I'm a little confused just chairing this about when I should have public comment. And do you have a suggestion for me on when to do public comment in these reports?
So you can allow public to speak for all the subcommittees if they have comments, all in one comment period. Or if there's extensive reports, then you could break it out into individual one. But it sounds like they're all pretty brief reports. So, it's up to you, but you might want to just have everybody give report and then allow public comment.
Okay, that sounds good. If something kind of goes to a larger discussion, we'll allow for some public comment there. Okay, cool. All right. So thank you, Jim. We're going to move on to the mental health subcommittee, or unless there are other questions and comments. Okay. And the Mental Health Subcommittee, which is Bart and Jeremiah, if you have. Okay, Bart?
I think we got a little stymied because Corey was the convener, which meant that we didn't convene. And we made various attempts, and Jeremiah made a number of attempts to get us going. But since we didn't really know that Corey had resigned, that we really didn't have a way to move forward. So I think it would be good if we had another member, and also Chair Zapata, if you would appoint someone to be the convener. And Jeremiah would like to weigh in, I see.
Go ahead, Jeremiah.
Could I just,
yeah.
I also did request at the last meeting, and apparently that didn't work out, but I would like to renew the request for a report from Alameda County as to what services they're now providing in Albany and what the experience has been, because I'm very concerned that we're not getting what we need from the county.
And can you comment on that, when there was going to be the report for Alameda, from Alameda County?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure, but I can check and get back to you guys.
Okay, I feel like there was something. Actually, Anne Marie was checking about that, but so yeah, if you could, I know there's a ball rolling forward on that. If perhaps you can.
Okay, I will check.
That was the request, and Anne Marie was working on something. Okay, so Jeremiah.
Okay. So where's Anne Marie Heineman? Isn't she our meeting person? Just realized she's not here.
Apparently not anymore.
Is this permanent?
I'm the SCJC staff liaison.
From now on?
Yes.
So there's no more Anne Marie Heineman at these meetings?
No.
Interesting. Very interesting. The timing of this all. I feel so undermined. But anyway, that's my personal situation. Well, welcome, Anne. Welcome. Thank you. I am just excited to see you here. I got to say that. Okay. We'll stick to the positive. I think this is great. Okay. All right. I feel great stuff happening already. So mental health, I think what it takes to be on any subcommittee, especially mental health subcommittee or any subcommittee, is I find myself in all these other public meetings, the policing task force last night, planning and zoning, arts committee, all these other meetings, climate action. That's one of my favorites. It's really fun. Well, they all talk about housing. Mental health. We all talk about mental health. Last night on the policing task force, we got this whole presentation on the Bonita House. The Bonita House. Well, that's housing for mental health. So it's kind of both subcommittees there. It's housing for mental health. But mental health, the policing task force, they want to hire a Bonita House. So I'm wondering, and how come this commission got no information on this Bonita House? Maybe because the Bonita House has not been approved by council yet, and they're just kind of in the works. But I think now we know, SEJC, so now we know that the city's working on a Bonita House for mental health. It's in Berkeley. I just don't know if there's any mobile services involved there. I failed to raise that question last night, and I kind of got sidetracked in some of my public comments. But one of my questions I was going to bring back at the end was, having that thing be a mobile crisis, because they're going to suggest that to city council. And I was just going to add that, change it to edit that the requirements be a mobile unit. So I wasn't in there. So
Jeremiah, can I just,
yeah.
yeah, just as a point of order, what we're doing right now, what it sounds like you're doing is the work of the mental health subcommittee, which it sounds like we need to get a new person to lead as well as open it up for another member. So I'm wondering, Bart, well, first of all, is there someone else that would like to serve on this committee from our commission? Commissioner Canola?
No, I was just going to make a comment. Are you only supposed to be on 2 subcommittees, not 3? I don't know if that's a rule or not.
No, there wasn't. I think Jeremiah's on 3. There wasn't a limit. I think we just numerically said, and by the way, I mean, hopefully we will have new members joining us in the, upcoming months.
I'd like to nominate Bainan for mental health subcommittee.
Commissioner Bainan?
Yeah. Thank you for that nomination, Commissioner Garrett Pinguello. But I think I'm already on 2 subcommittees, and if anyone else with 1 subcommittee would love to join that, I would be very open to that, to kind of just spread around the work. But if not, I would love to be on the mental health subcommittee as well.
Oh, great. Okay.
I think it might be, if you're open to it, unless there's anyone else. I didn't see anyone's hands, but also to remember that when we do have a new commissioner join us, perhaps we can step back and an open space for that, whatever committee that person would like to join, so that they're sharing the work and leadership of this commission. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a great plan.
Okay, so for now, it sounds like Will is interested in being on the mental health subcommittee. And who would like to?
Wait a minute. I did not hear Will say that. I heard Will say that he was on 2, and it sounded like that was enough. But it's not that I don't have, I'm completely open to him being on. I just haven't heard him say that he wants to be.
He did.
Yeah, to clarify, I said I'd be willing to be on it, but seeing I'm already on 2, if anyone else with 1 subcommittee wants to be on it, that's totally fine as well.
So is there anyone else?
Well, that's what I said. It didn't look like there was anyone else. So then that's what I had said.
I'm sorry. Let me raise my hand.
Okay. Yes. Jim?
Do you want to be on the subcommittee? I know you're willing. Yeah, yes, he does. Okay, thank you.
Yes, but say Chair Zapata, or you want to be on as well, then you should be on it.
No, the reason why I'm only on 1 is because chairing this is actually has me doing work outside of doing planning and things that I is sort of like a committee. So only 1 is what I'm willing to do because I'm doing other leadership work. So unless I see any hands, it sounds like, Will, you're willing, you want to, and no one else is stepping up. So does this require a motion?
No.
I think so, yeah. So go ahead, Anne.
It doesn't, but if you want it to be noted on the minutes, it's probably best that you do make a motion so that we make sure we include that in the minutes.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion? Jeremiah?
Yeah, I'd like to motion that Commissioner Will Bainan join the mental health subcommittee at his leisure.
Hey, is there a second? Sierra?
Yeah, a second.
Thank you. And are there any comments?
Thank you.
Bart?
No, It concerns me a little bit that the subcommittee is 3 white men. I mean, if that's who we've got, we have mostly a white subcommittee. So my committee, we can't do much about that, but it does create a certain limitation. You know, we may have to reach out for input from others because you know, it's a problem, I think.
I have some more things to report for my subcommittee report regarding mental health.
Well,
I never finished. I was just interrupted.
okay. So, well, we're in the middle of a motion, and Bart had made a comment. I guess my only caveat would be that these are kind of temporary. Ideally, we have new people coming on and we can relook at it. But I guess my only comment would be perhaps we can think of this as temporary.
Well, and also we can get input here.
What's that?
We can get input from the other members of the commission as well.
Right.
Not as members of the subcommittee, but certainly people can have input. I think this isn't ideal, but it's what we have. So that's fine.
We have a motion on the floor. So could we, unless there's more further discussion, we should take a vote and then.
Okay, are we ready for a vote? Yeah? Okay, let's go, Anne.
Commissioner Bainan,
Yes.
Commissioner Garrett Penguella,
Yes.
Commissioner Grossman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cannoli,
Yes.
Commissioner Lindsay,
Yes.
Chair Zapata.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone like to be the lead the subcommittee? Sorry.
I'd be willing to.
Okay, so I'm going to, Jeremiah, were you going to make a comment about leading it?
Well, you mean the conveyor?
The convener, yeah, exactly.
Convener.
Mm-hmm.
Tough word to pronounce. I want to say convener for some reason. I'm sorry. Yeah, Bart, you want to go ahead and be the convener? That'd be great. I just want to throw that out there, that whoever is the convener for these subcommittees, I'm still going to do my best to reach out to other subcommittee members, and I'm just not going to rely solely on the convener to organize it. But that's all I got to say, I guess. I'm just going to do my best, even though I'm technically not the convener. I think it's well within my rights to at least reach out to each other to try to meet up. We shouldn't blame the convener if they don't reach out. It shouldn't just be their responsibility. I'm kind of taking it upon myself, just as a subcommittee member, to be a assistant convener. Can we do a vice convener in case one convener? I don't know. Go for it, Bart.
I don't think the three of us need two leaders. But.
Yeah, so we'll have Bart be the convener for the subcommittee.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I will arrange with Ann to set up a time immediately. So
I prefer to meet more often on a less timely basis than let's say we meet once a month for an hour. I'd rather meet once a week for 5 minutes. I think we can get more information across and communicate more if we meet more regularly, instead of having it all be on one time. All this energy to meet once a month, and then if we don't meet, then we don't have a report. So I just want to throw it out there. We should at least try to meet once a week, and if for some reason we miss that week, well, then we'll meet next week. But that's just my thought.
All right. So, Jim, did you have a comment?
Yeah. The convener is just the person who sort of agreed to pull it together, but sometimes for whatever reason it doesn't happen, and there's nothing wrong with somebody else on the body calling up the other two people or emailing the other two people and saying, "Hey, let's get together." And I know Jeremiah did that, and good for you, Jeremiah. So, you know, sort of, it's polite to give the convener a chance and to try to talk to them, and, you know, but if you can't get hold of them because they're sick or they're out of town or whatever, you can just be the substitute convener, whether or not you have the title substitute convener, right? You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, Jeremiah, did you have any last comments you wanted to make?
Yeah, I have some great ones. So regarding the mental health subcommittee, I attended the school district board meeting, and I really love those meetings as well. I learned so much. Those meetings generally go for 6-7 hours sometimes. It's a whole 8-hour shift for those folks. We spend about 2.5 hours talking about mental health in the school board meeting. And what it came down to, Superintendent Wells standing up for what's right. And the next day he decided there's no more waiting list for mental health. And what a great superintendent. You know, there shouldn't be a waiting list for a mental health issue. They said there have been people since October, November waiting a mental health diagnosis in the schools. So he, you know, I feel there's great mental health things going on in the school district. You know, now there's no waiting list. If there's you know, an email sent regarding mental health, it's taken, it's looked at right away. And I feel this model that the school district has for mental health is great. It seems to be working. And I'm wondering if we could use that model and what barriers are put in place, you know, because using the school district's model for mental health seems to be working, you know, and that's half our city right there. So we just need to figure out the rest of the half the city, you know, senior citizens and people that aren't in the schools, because community members that are in the school district, the mental health is already taken care of. I mean, that's already through the school district. So when we're talking about mental health, sure, it's for our students too, but we don't want to be, I don't want to say too much, but I just want to report that, you know, being on a mental health subcommittee, it takes to go to other meetings, you know, it takes to pay attention all around. And regarding, you know, the mental health of the schools, I'm just glad Will is back on this committee. You know, Will was on this committee already. And so I just want to say welcome back, Will. And I feel you're going to be a great input with all the mental health at the school district. Glad to have you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the housing subcommittee, which is Sierra, Will, and Jeremiah.
Yes, so I'm going to hand it off to Garrett Pinguello just because he met with both of us separately. We did meet on a weekly basis. Garrett Pinguello, do you want to talk about the housing?
Okay, I could start it off. There's a lot going on with housing in Albany. I really don't know where to begin. Other than, I guess, some announcements. January 4th, there's a Facebook group. Maybe Lindsay, if you got the information, you could share with us. I don't have it on hand, that January 4th housing meeting.
Are you talking about the Albany Tenants Union?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's been a new Albany Tenants Union has been formed. There's a Facebook group of people are interested in helping out.
Yeah, that's what it was. Okay, thanks. The Albany Tenants Union. So there's a lot of Facebook groups, housing in Albany. So if you guys want to check that out, you know, there's always housing topics. Planning and zoning, we're talking about housing. I actually learned something from Nick Pilch. I forget what meeting that was. Planning and zoning. We talk about low income and very low income. And I actually heard him saying something about extremely low income. I didn't know that was a thing. And when I've rented a place, apartments or whatever I've rented, the rule of thumb has always been, correct me if I'm wrong, but your rent should be 1/3 of your income, or your rent should be no more than 1/3 of your income. I don't know. It's not a set in stone thing, but for me, that was kind of a rule of thumb. And I'm thinking in Albany, we could develop a policy to where this low income, extremely low income, there's numbers involved. And the numbers would be based on the Albany living wage or the Albany minimum wage. Let's say hypothetically, let's say the Albany living wage or minimum wage is $20 an hour. Well, low income should be, your rent should be X amount of dollars maximum based on the city's living wage. And landlords shouldn't be able to charge more than 1/3 of, you know, let's say your income. We could discuss this more, but that's kind of my idea, to where landlords can't, it's not rent control. I don't know. This is maybe a bigger topic. I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but I just think the rent should be in line with the city's living wage and minimum wage. Just to be fair, you know, just to be fair for housing. Because let's say you got a city staff member, you know, working for a recreation department, level 1, 2, or 3, right? Well, let's say they want to rent something in Albany. Well, they're just not making enough, or you know, 1/3 is not enough. So I think we could have a bigger policy on what rent should be for housing, because basically landlords, they charge whatever they want and they get away with whatever they want, because there's no rent control.
Jeremiah, can I make a comment?
Yeah.
As the chair, this I'm a little worried that we're not, you know, this agenda item is supposed to be a subcommittee report, and so ideally what's happening is there's a report out from the work that's happened outside of this commission, right? That is literally a report out. So I think what you're doing is sharing important information, but it's really not the agendized item that we have. And
I apologize. I did get sidetracked there. Let me just speak on what Sierra and I had talked about. We had talked about the situation with Judy at the Albany Library, and Albany finally, you know, helped her out, put her in a hotel. But the hotel that she was put in was less than standard, prostitutes and cockroaches, things of that nature. And then Berkeley Food and Housing took her out of there and put her in this place that she's currently at right now. And she's in this tiny bedroom, and she's got to share a toilet with, I guess, 15 other people living there. She got to share a toilet, and she got to share a shower. She says every time she goes in there, take a shower, there's hair and there's dirt everywhere. In the toilet, there's, you know, like poop, and there's feces all over the toilet. It's terrible. You know, I'm just not sure what Berkeley Food and Housing is actually really doing, because it's kind of, she's not a criminal, you know, she's a senior citizen, she's a female, she shouldn't have to be punished by being placed in unsafe places with cockroaches and prostitutes and dirty showers and shared toilets. I mean, is this really Albany? Is this really the best we could do? And you know, she's a community member, you know, she's a resident. actually, it's just kind of sad that our Berkeley Food and Housing treats people like this. This is what I should not expect from Albany, is that the best they can do is put somebody in Oakland in the ghetto around cockroaches and dirty facilities. It's terrible.
So is there anything, I mean, ideally where there's some decisions or things that you all have talked about that you want to vet with us? Is there any vetting or feedback you all would like?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead, Sierra.
yeah, me and Go just talked about that specific situation, though we did not come up with a decision just because I've had personal issues. But that's pretty much the gist of what we talked about. I'm not sure about Bainan and Yellow.
Thank you. All right, Bart?
Maybe I'm unmuted. Maybe we need to spend a minute getting clear about what a subcommittee report is. So a subcommittee report should be the product of everybody on the committee. And really it should be a request to take action. So, if there are specific recommendations that the subcommittee has that it wants the commission to recommend to the council, that would, I think that, I'm not saying it can't be about other things and making us aware of stuff, but it would really be helpful, I think, if the subcommittees came in with specific suggestions for, what they would like the city to do.
Okay, well, the suggestion has always been Berkeley Food and Housing to give a report here, and they keep failing to give reports, and I feel like we're being undermined a lot. I'm seeing what's going on. I mean, I see it all, and it's just, how could we not do? We want a Berkeley Food and Housing report. We want Albany Cares report. Berkeley Food and Housing is housing, so we want the report. We want a presentation from them.
Jim?
So all we can do is request that presentation. If they decline to make a presentation, we have no power over them.
Right.
Hopefully staff can clarify if they have asked them. But what people need to, okay, it's our job to make recommendations to council, things that the council can do in the city. So what could council do? What could our city do around housing or mental health or all the other stuff, right? And so as a subcommittee, you get together and you say, okay, we're going to try for X. We think the most important thing is X. And you sort of put together a recommendation for the city council. You take it back to, this is addressed to everybody, not just to you, Jeremiah. This is addressed to everybody. And you take it back to this whole group. And then the group says, okay, yes, we as the SHAC recommend this policy, that the council take this policy. And so then that goes to the council. And that's our primary job, is to advise council. So in the subcommittees, we're coming up with ideas that we can recommend to council. That's the key work that the subcommittees do.
Okay. I guess, go ahead, Bart.
Yeah, with regard to presentations, and we always had the responsibility of overseeing the Albany Cares and the Project Hope, and they always reported here quarterly, and somehow that stopped, and I wonder why. I think it's still on the work plan, isn't it? that we have responsibility for those two programs. So I'm wondering why they're not reporting to us. And they did this year report to council. And that seemed odd to me. They made the same report to council that they always made to SEJC. So, Anne, can you answer that, or can you point us in some direction? Maybe you need to do some investigation.
Yeah, I do need to go back and do some checking, but if I remember correctly, because of the pandemic, there was some report that was given, but it was late, it wasn't on time, or there was some timing issue. So I believe you did get the report, but I do have to go back and check, and I can't speak for sure right now. I will go back and check on when they presented to SEJC, or what happened, whether they're when they will come back, if they will come back to present. I don't have the answer for you right now, but I will check.
Okay, I think Isabel would know.
So just so you all know, I really want to make sure that we get to this election of officers. It's almost 9 now, but that's actually an important thing that we don't skip tonight, because it's a process that is required for our commission. And even though I was, elected or whatever, we went through this process. It actually needs to happen yearly. So we do have two other subcommittees that I want to make sure we get to. And this is the Aging, Disabled, Homebound Subcommittee, which it looks like Bart is just on, and then the Youth Leadership with Will and Jeremiah. So I'm going to move us along to Bart, if you want to.
Okay. So
Can I say one more thing on housing?
Sorry.
We just ended housing so abruptly without being able to respond.
Did you want to?
Are we still on housing subcommittee?
I was trying to move us off of that. Did you want to? Was there more things you wanted to talk about?
Well, yeah. I just don't want to be pressured because of time and all this other agenda items to, be undermined on a housing subcommittee when we're in the middle of talking about it. This is a time to discuss, and we shouldn't have to feel pressured like we should have to move on to the next topic.
Jim?
Okay. This is supposed to be a report back of the committee's work. What is the committee doing? What work is it doing in terms of planning on making a recommendation to council on something? It's not supposed to be a report of a whole bunch of different things that are happening in housing in Albany. What is the committee doing as a group? What is it focusing on? 1 or 2 things, hopefully, right? That it can work on to make a recommendation to council. It's not half an hour of this is happening in housing and that's happening in housing and this is happening in housing, and that's not what these are supposed to be. And I think there's some confusion about that. I'm sorry to be the one to say it, but that's what these are supposed to be. Maybe you can just go really quickly if you have to through these things. But anyway, that's what's going on.
Okay. Well, basically what I mean, I'd like to make, suggestions to the city council is that basically Albany we need our own housing. We shouldn't rely on other cities to take care of our city's responsibility. We outsource to Berkeley Food and Housing to take care of our situation. So I just want to make a recommendation possibly to city council that maybe in the future they think about having an Albany Food and Housing or an Albany housing situation. That way we could take care of it in-house.
Thank you. So it sounds like that perhaps that's something you all can discuss at the next subcommittee, and then we'll continue to roll the work forward as we do this process of meeting outside of these meetings, coming back, vetting, having a back and forth. So I'm going to move us to the Aging Disabled Homebound Subcommittee. Bart?
Yeah, this will be a very short report because Corey and I were never able to meet. I just wanted to remind, so I need somebody to work with. I can't be the subcommittee alone, and I don't want to be. I just wanted to remind you that I did send out a while ago the report that came out of the old aging subcommittee, mostly the work of Margie Marks, who laid out some direction on on aging in the community and aging friendly communities. And so I'd like us to go back and see if maybe we're ready to even pass that. And maybe then disability becomes a separate item rather than to try to do those two things together, because aging and disability are two different things. So that's all I have to say at this point, but I do need a partner.
So I'm wondering if there's anyone who's willing to join Bart. And again, we don't have the full membership of our SCJC, having Corey having moved on, but I see Jim's hand. Yeah.
Well, so how about I join for now, and then we get hopefully when we get a replacement for Corey, they would be willing to work on that committee. This is not the only thing I do, and I'm pretty overstrapped, pretty damn thin, but I am only on one subcommittee, and everybody else is on two, if you count the chair being as one, which I think it does. So yeah, so why don't you put me on that one for now, and Bart, you're the convener, and we'll get together and get some work done.
That's great.
But then with the hope that, for my sanity, somebody else will join in on it later.
Okay, so it sounds like that group is 2 people, and that you all will look at aging in place, and or it sounds like there's some work, that Margie started and perhaps can keep going forward. I don't know what to do, Bart, about your suggesting that disability be taken out of it. Do you want to make a motion, or?
No, I'm not suggesting that disability be taken out of it. I'm just suggesting that maybe they be handled as 2 separate things, so that we could get the aging thing done and then deal with disability.
I see. Okay, so that'll happen. Perhaps that'll happen in the subcommittee, and we'll hear. And yeah, okay, great. Okay, yeah, Anne?
Could we make a quick motion for Lindsay to join
Thank you. Yeah.
the aging subcommittee?
Oh, wait. Hey, can I make the motion just for fun?
Yeah.
I move that I be assigned to the Aging Disabled Homebound Subcommittee.
And Jeremiah? Are you seconding that?
Second motion.
Thank you. Unless there are comments, I think we're ready for a roll call vote, Anne.
Commissioner Bainan?
Yes.
Commissioner Garrett Pinguela?
Yes.
Commissioner Grossman? Commissioner Grossman, he vote yes. Commissioner Cannoli?
Yes.
Commissioner Lindsay?
Yes.
And Chair Zapata.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Awesome. And lastly is our Youth Leadership Subcommittee.
Yeah, so I can report out for that. I was able to meet with Jeremiah basically a lot of our time was spent on brainstorming and kind of the relationship the high school has with the city and ways it could be improved, in ways that students could, or in ways the city could encourage civic engagement in students. So ideas we had was the possibility of starting a sort of like volunteer club between the high school and the city, where students would be exposed to the variety of roles within the city, and also be exposed to the variety of like volunteer opportunities around the city. Another idea we had was bringing back the Civics Academy, which was run by the city pretty recently, I believe, just a couple of years ago. It's basically a summer class on city government, and this is for all Albany residents. There's a bunch of YouTube videos on it. It's just like Civics Academy, Albany, California, that you can go look at. And there's a really great initiative to encourage public engagement with the city. And that's basically what we talked about. This next month, we hope to make more tangible impact. I'm going to send out a survey to a bunch of Albany High students and get some data back. So at the next meeting, we'll be able to report out on that.
Any comments or questions?
Yeah, excellent report, Will. I just want to reiterate the Civics Academy, and I saw you taking notes, and I know you've heard me in countless other meetings talk about the Civics Academy, but Will and I definitely agreed that we definitely want to recommend to City Council, you know, all the pros, everything, and all the requirements to present to City Council, all the reasons for the Civics Academy. So, and we just want to suggest our subcommittee report, if we can make any recommendation to City Council, for right now, it's to please bring back the Civics Academy.
Jim?
So what you need to do, and I'll help you with this if nobody else will, is you need to write that up, and you need to send it to Anne at least a week. 2 weeks would be better, before the next meeting. There's a specific format, and again, I'm willing to help you guys if, you know, in how to do that. And then it gets agendized at the next meeting, because, you know, it would have to be a motion. So Brown Act, you got to agendize it. And then, you know, the SCJC agrees, it will go to council.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'll definitely be reaching out to you about that. Thanks for the help.
No problem.
Thank you, Jim. I think unless there are other comments, I'm going to go to public comment. Jeremiah, was that a hand or no?
Yeah, we got one more subcommittee delegate to delegate.
I didn't understand that.
The policing task force SCJC representative. I noticed last night we were missing one.
Anne, did you have a comment about that?
There's no direction from council for SCJC to appoint another member currently. And per council direction, February would be their last meeting.
Bart, did you have a comment?
The council may not have made a directive, but the composition of that subcommittee is in statute. And one of the members is to be a representative SCJC. So if there's no representative from SCJC, which there isn't because Corey has now resigned, then there needs to be one appointed. And that seems, I don't think we need council directive. I mean, it's a requirement of the statute. So I'm willing to wait for direction from council, but that commission really is not legitimate if SCJC is not represented.
So it needs to be on the agenda, on this agenda, for you guys to discuss that. So it would have to be next agenda, which the police, the task force, community task force on policing would have had their last meeting.
Yeah, but the chair.
I'm sorry, this item is not on the agenda and we can't talk about this. You can suggest it for the future agenda when the future agenda item is up.
Well, we're talking about reorganizing subcommittees. You know, I feel we're being undermined once again. You know, we were made aware of this, that Corey resigned, so it should have been on the agenda to fill the spot. We're being undermined.
So just so you know, the subcommittee report listed, it's everything that's on the agenda. So
what date did Corey resign?
Discussing the community task force on policing is not on the agenda.
Yeah, but we're talking about subcommittees and it needs to be discussed. And, you know, I feel we're being undermined here. And you know, I feel that if Corey was going to resign, you know, let us know ahead of time so we can put it on the agenda. You know, it kind of seems like we're being undermined here continuously to, you know, delay, and someone's not. You're right, Bart. The SCJC is supposed to have someone on there to represent it, period.
Bart, did you mean to put your hand down? I'm just waiting.
Oh, did I not? I'm sorry.
That's okay. So as the chair, I'm going to move us just because it isn't on the agenda. I want to make sure we, you know, stay within the bounds of Brown, but we are going to have item 7 is future agenda items. So I'm going to move us to 6.3. Jeremiah?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So I'm going to move us to 6.3, which is election of officers. Bart, did you have a comment?
Yes, I would like to suggest that since current Chair Zapata and Vice Chair Boehnen were just elected 2 months ago, that we simply re-elect them to continue. I think it would be unfair to them at this point to cut them off when they've only had they've really only had 2 meetings. And that was the will of the group. So I'm just suggesting we reinforce that.
I see Jim's hand and then Jeremiah.
Yeah, I'll second that. If that was a motion, I second it. Was it a motion?
Yes.
So I second that motion. I will say this, that I think that right now I have the floor. I will say that I think it would be really good. I don't know if Will is involved in making the agendas. I know it's harder when you get a third person involved and just 2 people doing it. But I think it would be good if he could be invited, if that's possible at least, because he'll learn a lot. And it's a way for the person who is the vice chair to learn a lot, you know, to be part of those meetings, even if they're just there and just listening. So that's the only thing I would say to make it sort of a more meaningful sort of thing. And it gives them a better shot if for some reason, you know, Chair Zapata can't make it, that he could step in because he'd be more prepped for it. So, but you know, that's just a sort of a side note. And I do second that motion.
Jeremiah, did you have a comment?
Yeah, absolutely. How many months, Chair Zapata, has you been the chair for?
I think this is my 2nd meeting.
Your 2nd meeting being chair?
I think so, yeah. I sat in for Corey once, but then this is my 2nd month, I believe.
Okay, so in all the meetings that you've been appointed chair of the commissions, how many of these meetings have been canceled on your watch?
I canceled the January meeting.
So basically your first meeting as chair, you canceled it. I just don't want any more meetings being canceled. You know, I just feel like if the chair takes on the responsibility of being chair, we should continue to have a meeting just because the chair has other things to do. or whatever reasons, emergencies or whatever, you know, that's when the vice chair steps up, and we still have a meeting. You know, I don't think these meetings should be canceled because one person can't attend. You know, whether you go to the chair or not, that's when the vice chair is supposed to step up and still run these meetings. You know, I keep mentioning the word undermined, but I see it happening in front of my eyes continuously. And I mean, now we're on the agenda, finally, the agenda item to reorganize, you know, maybe this is appropriate to talk about the policing task force agenda. But, you know, I don't want any more meetings canceled. You know, and Corey was chair, there were numerous meetings canceled, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about. So, you know, I'd like to learn too, you know, how to create an agenda. You know, now Will gets to learn and I don't. You know, I'm being undermined again. You know, congratulations to Will, vice chair, but you know, I'm trying to learn too, you know, and without a civics academy, and everybody keeps undermining me out of, you know, certain leadership roles, whether it being the policing task force, which I was already on, then I was removed, and now it can't be on again because some technicalities. Okay, all this bureaucracy or whatever. And the facts remain, someone still needs to be on the policing task force if they're going to continue having meetings. And we need to have our meetings, whether the chair is here or not. You know, and I want to learn too. You know, you were elected 2 months ago, which is great. You know, so we're just going to keep it the same, which I.
So just to be clear on the canceling of that meeting, that I made the call because it was the day after the break. It wasn't based on whether or not I could make it. I was available, but our subcommittees, which has really been the driving force of this commission, we were not, it was looking like people were not able to schedule meetings to discuss. So it seemed to me wise to put off that meeting and save it for February. So I just wanted to make that comment. I'm not, you know, disagreeing. I just wanted to give the rationale for canceling that meeting, that it was going to take place right after a break, and that that it didn't seem enough time for the subcommittees to have met. And it wasn't based on whether or not I could attend the meeting. I see Jim's hand up.
I think you've done an excellent job. It's a very tough job chairing this commission. And I call a question. So I'm moving that we close debate, which takes a 2/3 vote, and I don't believe is debatable itself.
So, and the vote that we're taking right now is to close debate, correct? No.
Yes, that's my motion.
Yes. Okay, the motion is to close debate.
It's to call the question.
It's to call
they're the same thing, but
yeah.
So we're voting on calling the question. And if you can take a roll call vote, and just to be clear, what we're voting on is to move along to the motion. So this motion right now is to close so that we can move on to the motion.
Correct. To close debate, and then you vote on the motion.
So Ann, can you do the roll call vote?
Commissioner Boehnen,
Yes.
Commissioner Garrett Penguillo,
I will not vote against something to undermine me directly to where I can't say one more thing. You're making this motion to silence me. It's directly at me. So I can't say one more thing about the chair or
motion is to close debate, sir.
Commissioner Grossman,
Obviously, I'll say no, absolutely not.
Commissioner Grossman?
Bart, you're muted.
Yes.
Commissioner Cannoli?
Yes.
Commissioner Lindsay?
Yes.
Chair Zapata?
Yes.
So we will move on to the motion to vote Chair Zapata back in as the chair and Vice Chair Bainan as the vice chair. Commissioner Bainan?
Yes.
Commissioner Garrett Pinguello?
No, because we never even opened it up for public comment. And also, we never even opened it up for anybody else to get nominated. Straight up.
He may have a point about the public comment, actually.
Commissioner Grossman?
Yes.
Commissioner Cannoli?
Yes.
Commissioner Lindsay?
I think Jeremiah has a valid point about the public comment. I really do.
On a vote for chair? I've never
because it's item 6.3, right? It's an agendized item under the Brown Act, right?
Yes.
And it was just an error, but I think he's absolutely right. And we should hold the vote until we've had public comment. But Jeremiah, the thing about other people being nominated, it doesn't require that. But you're absolutely right about the public comment. You just are right. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, I apologize as the chair that didn't provide space for that. So
and me too. So yeah.
Yeah. So do we want to? I mean, we are in the middle of a vote, so I don't know if we want to.
Because I was going to nominate myself for chair, but I never got the chance.
No, you didn't.
I mean, you know.
The way Albany does it is they don't like nominate a bunch of people and then have an election like a public election. They have somebody make a motion and they vote on that motion, and that does happen sometimes. But duly noted. But yeah.
So
we're in the middle of a vote, and then we could either stop now and take public comment, which probably, for the public comment to be useful, we would not complete the vote. So let's do the public comment and then let's redo the vote.
I agree. Let's set the previous votes aside, I think is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Do the public comment and then do the vote. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. So let's open up the floor to public comment. Please use the raise hand function if you'd like to make a comment.
There are none.
Okay, so we're back to the roll call vote. Although, did you have a question, Bart? Do you have your hand up still?
Oh, no, it's left up. I keep forgetting to take it down. I'm trying to be better.
Mm-hmm. So, Anne, we're on the motion that Bart opened us up with.
I like to start the vote over, if that's okay with you guys, to make it clean. So the motion is to vote Chair Zapata and Vice Chair Bainan to continue in 2022. Bainan?
Yes.
Garrett Pinguello?
No.
Grossman?
Yes.
Cannoli?
Yes.
Lindsay?
Yes.
Zapata?
Yes.
So the motion carried. Chair Zapata and Vice Chair Bainan.
Thank you. We are going to move to item 7, future agenda items. I'll make sure to get public comment on this item. And so why don't we see if there's any future agenda items from those of us here, and then we'll open it up to public comment. So Jim?
I would like us to have sort of a standing item, and I'm not sure, I know that there's time issues, but I think it would be really good if we could get 15-minute, 10-minute reports, somewhere near the beginning of each meeting, maybe another 10 minutes for people to talk about it, something like that, if we're disciplined. Because there's a lot of great groups, or there's groups we need to hear from. Jeremiah, who knows the homeless situation, homeless support better than anybody by far, is saying that we really need to hear from the Berkeley Food Network or something like that. I probably got it wrong because I'm not very good at that stuff, but maybe that should be the number one. And Bart had said the mental health group in Berkeley, like we really need to hear from them. But there's the Project Hope, Albany Cares, but there's also community organizations that I think would be really good to hear from. Albany Tenants Union could come in for 10 minutes and let us know what's up and what they're thinking about. Albany Uprising, a new group that a lot of people don't know about, could come in, 10 minutes and let us know what's up. And there's probably a lot of other, really excellent groups out there that have to do with social and economic justice, mind you. And we could just get a different one each month. And I don't know, I think it would be kind of nice. It would kind of connect us. So that's under future agenda items. I just wanted to propose that you consider that as a sort of thing that we would do. And I think the ones that Jeremiah and Bart have been asking before should be at the top of the priority list, because they've been asking month after month after month after month, and we haven't quite pulled it off yet. And so I think those should be probably at the top of the priority list for those presentations.
Thank you. Just to name that today's Brown Act overview and stuff kind of took that spot, so we couldn't have a presentation this month, but I think by seeing what Anne did in the short amount of time and what we got out of it, it was, it speaks to, I think, what you're saying. Bart?
I want to make a request again for a report from Alameda County Mental Health. And I know Anne's going to look at the other two organizations that normally report to us and haven't, but I really think we need to hear from Alameda Mental Health. And I'm just going to keep making that request until it happens.
Thank you. Are there other requests for future agenda items? Jeremiah?
Yeah. Next month, upcoming month, I was trying to get a presentation from a COVID testing company. I spoke with the manager and has offered the city of Albany, basically anywhere I want in Albany, I just got to get permission for a site, free COVID tests once a week as events. So I'm gonna, the CEO of the company wants to do a presentation next month. So I'll give city staff and I'll forward you their contact, and maybe you guys can go over, I guess, what their presentation could be like.
Jeremiah, one moment, Jeremiah. We need to vote to extend the meeting. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I apologize.
Yeah, right. I motion to extend the meeting just 10 minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Will seconded it, and unless there are any comments, we'll go to Anne to a roll call vote.
Okay. Bainan?
Yes.
Garapinguo?
Yes.
Grossman?
Yes.
Canoli?
Yes.
Lindsay?
Yes.
Zapata?
Yes. All right, go ahead, Jeremiah.
So back to what I was saying. It's hard to keep my train of thought. I was interrupted, but I try to get back to what I was talking about. The Bonita House. The Bonita House needs to do a presentation for the SEJC if they're going to be doing mental health stuff. So I'd like a presentation from the Bonita House about their mental health. And then also, a presentation or report, quarterly report, whatever you want to call it, I'm not sure. Report presentation from Albany Cares, number 1, and also Berkeley Food and Housing, number 2. Thanks.
Unless there are any other hands, I'm going to go to public comment. I know there's no attendees here, but I wanted to make sure. Okay. All right. So unless there are any other requests for future agenda items, I'm going to move us to item 8, which is the next meeting. It's Tuesday, March 1st at 7 o'clock. And we are going to adjourn. See you next month. Bye.